Turns out none of my 5 children are mine, so I flew to another country overnight and did this. Boy, she's mad she won't get a dime from me. Part 1. My daughter was sick in the hospital, which ultimately led to testing after testing, confirming something that I did not want to admit. So, what did I do? I went ahead and got paternity tests for all of my children, and the results are absolutely shocking. I'm 44, male, and I've been married to my wife, Judith, for 22 years. We got married when I was 22 and she was 20. We were childhood sweethearts and dated all through middle school and high school. We have 5 children and have been living happily for the past 22 years. I was born into a very poor family, and Judith was born into an upper middle class background. Her family was not happy with her decision to marry me and were very vocal about the fact that they did not believe I could provide her with a comfortable life. Of course, she ignored them and married me anyway, but I've had to work very hard during our marriage to prove them wrong and give her the life that she deserves. She always said that she didn't expect much and that she knew what she was getting into when she accepted my proposal, but I still wanted to give her everything I possibly could. During the first 10 years of our marriage, I worked myself to the bone to feed our family as it just kept getting bigger and bigger with each new baby. I had to take on more and more hours. I think, at the height of it, when we had 5 children under 10, I was working 80-hour weeks, 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was exhausted and missed out on a lot of being a father. I never got to see any of my children's first words, their first steps, or most of their milestones, really. The kids barely knew me because I was gone most of the day, and when I got home, I was just too tired to play with them. I barely knew those kids, and it hurt that, in order to keep my family off the streets, I had to sacrifice my best years with them. Still, I gritted my teeth and bared it as the man of the house. My wife and I did talk about the possibility of her getting a part-time job, to help with all the expenses once the kids were old enough to go to daycare, but she said she could not be away from them for so long. Unfortunately, even after everything I sacrificed to make sure my kids were safe and my wife was happy, her family did not ease up on me. The criticism just pivoted from me being a poor, no good loser who could never give her the life she wanted, to me being a workaholic with no interest in my own children. It took a lot of willpower to keep myself going back then, but I managed it. I had been working at a small welding company for all those years, and about 12 years into our marriage, my boss pulled me aside. He was retiring early at 60 because of ill health. I think they found a tumor in his brain or something. He decided that he was going to leave the company to me. I was absolutely shocked. Of course, I had no experience with business or running a company, or even being in charge of anybody. I had no idea why he chose me to take over his life's work. But when I asked, he just said that he'd never seen anybody work as hard as I do. Obviously, I was flattered, but I was nervous, too. I was a welder, and I had never been promoted in all the years I'd worked there. I started as an apprentice at 17, and now, at 34, I was being handed the keys to the castle. Honestly, I did consider turning it down. It was a huge undertaking, and I wasn't sure I was the man for the job. Thankfully, my wife convinced me to give it a go, just for a couple of months on a trial basis and see if I liked it. Well, it turns out I did like it. I'll admit, it was strange swapping my work clothes for a suit, and even stranger having to adjust to the responsibilities, but as it turns out, I have a knack for management. Thanks to my old boss, the company was booming, and people trusted him. If he said I was good at my job, then they believed him. This really helped me navigate the growing pains of starting my own business. My hours were still crazy high those first few months, just while I was finding my feet and gaining the respect of all my colleagues as their new boss. After that, though, my hours were slashed in half, and my pay was much higher, too. My wife was ecstatic about the whole thing, and our oldest was 9. I managed to make up for all the years I'd lost. I had an amazing relationship with all my children now, and the ones old enough to remember my absence in their youth have now forgiven me. It took a lot of work and a lot of sucking up, but our family was happier than ever. After a few years, I really got the hang of owning a business, and I'm happy to say that we've expanded the company and now have workspaces in 3 different states. Everything was going smoothly, and honestly, I should have known that it was too good to be true. I thought the past few years of happiness and comfort were just the universe making up for the hard times during the first 12 years of our marriage. Unfortunately, everything turned on its head a few months ago when my daughter got sick. She's 17, and she'd been feeling unwell for a while, but we didn't think it was anything serious. She always had a weak immune system, so we thought she'd just gotten her yearly flu or something. But when she was still feeling awful after a few months, we brought her in for a checkup just to make sure everything was fine. Unfortunately, everything was not fine. Our girl is now in chronic liver failure. She's been on dialysis, but short of a transplant, there are no real options. A few weeks ago, before her condition got so bad, the doctors told my wife that, well, there was a solution they'd like to try, a plasma transfusion. I don't know much about medical stuff. I've never heard any of the terminology, nor has Judith, but of course, we agreed to try. The issue was, our girl has a very rare blood type. We've always known she had a rare blood type, but you never think something like this is going to happen, so we didn't give it much thought. The doctors said that the chances of a match in familial relationships are high, so both my wife and I agreed to donate and have our plasma tested. My wife seemed a little hesitant at first, but after some pushing from both me and the doctor, she agreed. So, we were given hope. You can click on share more to see if there is a part 2.